welcome Parson John and Maggie to Sabine Hill, the home of the Taylor family, here in the Happy Valley community of Carter County, Tennessee. We want to show you around. The larger of the two upstairs bed chambers, of course, we believe is the room that Mary Taylor would have occupied. She lived here until 1853, which is the year of her death, and just a fascinating woman. She left two wills, and we're going to use her first will, which was executed in 1829, and that's the closest will that we have to the target date of 1818 that we want to represent here. And so we're going to use that for when we furnish the house. But in her 1853 will, which was executed the year of her death, she mentions the pieces of furniture that she's going to be giving to her children and grandchildren. And she says, "My trundle bed in which I am lying." So that's a sentence out of her will that gives us a little bit of insight as to her condition. She was confined to a trundle bed, a low bed, and more than likely in this room. She also was a member of the American Bible Society, and she gave a yearly stipend of $100 to the American Bible Society, and she owned several Bibles upon her death, which also gives you insight into her life. A little bit of legacy of the Taylor family. Many of the Taylors that came after Nathaniel and Mary were business leaders in the community, political and military leaders. One son, a grandson, became the governor of Georgia. The two most well-known Taylors in Tennessee history, of course, are Bob and Alf Taylor. They were brothers, and in 1886 they ran against each other to become governor of the state of Tennessee. One was a Democrat and one was a Republican. And it was known as Tennessee's War of the Roses. One brother wore a red rose on his lapel, and the other brother wore a white rose on his lapel when they would travel across the state of Tennessee and speak against one another in their political speeches. But what was so unique about this campaign is they both traveled in the same carriage. They would oftentimes stay in the very same hotel, and in some small towns, when the hotel didn't have many rooms, they would end up sleeping in the same bed, of course, in these small country hotels and taverns. And it was just a game that these brothers played against one another during their political campaign. One instance, the two brothers were having dinner at an inn, and one excused himself from the dinner table and went up to their room and found his brother's speech, memorized it, and when they got up to speak the next day, he gave his brother's speech. The next town they went into, that brother who had his speech stolen, he paid off some good old boys to go in and actually saw the legs on the platform that his brother was going to be standing on when he spoke the next day. So when he mounted the platform, the legs fell out from under him and he crashed to the ground. And the other brother got up and said, "As you can see, friends, my brother has not a platform to stand on." So they were both wonderful storytellers, fiddle players, and they would draw huge crowds to their speeches. And Bob won the election, but Alfred was not to be outdone. He ran in 1921 and was elected, so both of them ended up being governor.
Furnishings that we're seeing in the house?
The furnishings that we do have are original to the time period or reproductions, but not associated with the Taylor family. These are just donations that we've had so far. As you have noticed throughout the tour of the house, it is very sparsely furnished at the time, but we're going to be working with the Tennessee State Museum to have furnishings placed throughout the house, again using Mary's 1829 will as the basis of what will be in the house.
Very nice. What about this little room right here?
This little room at the top of the stairs is different than any room in the house. It is painted very plainly. The walls are painted with a lime wash rather than oil paint, and it has a very dark trim work. And so this room probably more than likely was not meant to be viewed by visitors. So we believe that it may have been used as a trunk room or a storage room or even perhaps quarters for a slave who was, meant to be working in the house up in the night. One interesting story about this room is the little stairs, set of stairs going up into the attic. At some point during the home's history, these stairs were removed out of this room. Part of it was cut off at the top so that it could be used to access the basement. When the Reynolds family purchased this home in the 1940s, they dug out a basement, and then this was used to access the basement through the bottom closet underneath the stairs. The little tiny section at the top of this staircase was found up under the kitchen, and so when the two pieces were put together, it perfectly matched a ghost mark going up the side of the wall, and so we've been able to put it back in its original spot.
So the history of the house is really interesting, but can you tell us the history of how Tennessee, the state, got a hold of it, and how long did it take you to put it together, and where are you in that program right at the moment?
Certainly. I'll backtrack just a little bit and talk about, we can't talk about the preservation of this house without talking about the Reynolds family. Had it not been for James Reynolds, who purchased this house in 1949 from the Taylor family, the house would be long a memory. He was an engineer at a local plant here in Elizabethton, purchased the house, and really saved it from just falling in. In the early 1900s, it had been used as a barn. They housed chickens and hay and straw in this house. So he came in and built a metal substructure in the roof to keep it from caving in, came in and shored up the beams in the basement. And so it's really a testament to James Reynolds that the house is existing today. They lived here until around the 80s, and then it went through several families. The house was in danger of being torn down and condominiums built here up on Sabine Hill. And so the local officials got together and helped to rezone the area, and some local citizens actually put up their own personal funds to purchase the house and hold it until the state of Tennessee could buy it. And then when the legislature did appropriate the funds for the purchase of the house and the restoration of the house, the restoration began around 2013, and then it was opened for visitation in 2017. So about a 4-year restoration process to get it to where it is now. And so we opened in November of 2017.
That's not very long ago.
No. And so that kind of shows why we're still an unfurnished house. It's still a work in progress.
Right.
And so that gives people opportunity to come and visit now, and then come and visit a little bit later when it's fully furnished. And so they can kind of get a step in the process of how it's going to be presented.
Oh, that's wonderful. It'll be a beauty when it's done, won't it?
Oh, absolutely. So let's go and visit my favorite part of the site, and that's the kitchen.
All right.